The morning sun painted golden light across the Pacific Ocean when the first tremors shook the seafloor 300 miles off the coast of California. Deep beneath the waves, something ancient stirred from its million-year slumber. The creature had slept through ice ages, through the rise and fall of civilizations, through the birth of humanity itself. Now it opened eyes larger than football stadiums and began its slow ascent toward the surface. Dr. Sarah Chun was drinking her third cup of coffee at the Pacific Seismic Monitoring Station when every alarm in the building started screaming at once. Her coffee cup shattered on the floor as she rushed to her station. The readings made no sense. The seismic activity was moving, traveling upward through the water column at impossible speeds. Whatever was causing this disturbance was not an earthquake. It was something alive. Within the hour, the first satellite images confirmed humanity's worst nightmare. A massive shape was rising from the depths, a creature so enormous that its body created whirlpools that could swallow cargo ships. The creature's skin was deep blue, almost black, covered in patterns that seemed to glow with bioluminescent light. Its head alone measured nearly 2 kilometers across, and its body stretched back into the darkness of the ocean like a living mountain range. The world watched in horror as the Blue Titan, as the media quickly named it, broke the surface for the first time. Water cascaded off its body like waterfalls. Its roar shook the atmosphere and was heard on every coastline around the Pacific Rim. Birds fell from the sky. Windows shattered in buildings hundreds of miles away. Humanity had never faced anything like this before. Emergency sirens wailed across every coastal city from San Francisco to Tokyo. The evacuation orders came fast and chaotic. Millions of people flooded onto highways, creating traffic jams that stretched for hundreds of miles. Families grabbed whatever they could carry and fled inland. The military mobilized with desperate speed, but everyone knew that their weapons were designed for human conflicts, not for fighting gods. General Marcus Webb stood in the Pentagon's war room, watching live footage of the creature's movement. The Blue Titan was heading directly toward the California coast. At its current speed, it would reach Los Angeles in 18 hours. The city held 12 million souls. The evacuation was already falling apart. People were dying in the chaos of the highways, crushed by accidents, trampled in panic. And the monster kept coming. The first military response came 6 hours after the creature surfaced. A fleet of Navy destroyers fired everything they had at the Blue Titan. Missiles streaked across the sky and exploded against the creature's hide. The explosions looked like fireflies against its massive form. The creature did not slow down. It did not even seem to notice. The destroyers retreated when the creature's tail swept through the water and created waves that capsized 3 ships in seconds. Dr. Chun worked without sleep, analyzing every piece of data they could gather about the creature. She noticed something strange in its movement patterns. The Blue Titan was not moving randomly. It was heading toward specific points along the coast, places where deep-sea drilling operations had been extracting oil and rare minerals for decades. She realized with growing horror that humanity might have woken this creature up. Their drilling had disturbed its ancient rest. The president addressed the nation from Air Force One, already relocated to a safe distance inland. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed the weight of impossible decisions. She announced that nuclear options were being considered. The word sent shockwaves through the population. Using nuclear weapons on their own coastline would cause devastation beyond imagination. But what choice did they have against something that shrugged off conventional weapons like raindrops? Meanwhile, in a small fishing town called Harbor's Edge, a retired marine biologist named James Okonkwo watched the creature through his telescope. He had spent 50 years studying ocean life, and something about the Blue Titan's behavior struck him as odd. The creature was not attacking. It was not hunting. Every time a military vessel approached, the creature only defended itself. When left alone, it simply continued swimming toward specific coordinates. James pulled out his old research notes and began making calls to anyone who would listen. The hours ticked by with terrible slowness. The Blue Titan reached the continental shelf and began to rise higher out of the water. Now people could see its full, horrifying scale. The creature stood taller than any skyscraper ever built, its limbs thick as mountain ranges. It had 6 arms, each one ending in claws that could tear through aircraft carriers like paper. But still, it did not attack the fleeing humans. It ignored the helicopters buzzing around its head like gnats. It kept moving towards something specific. Dr. Chun's team made a breakthrough at hour 14. They discovered that the creature was emitting a complex pattern of sounds, frequencies that were somehow interfacing with the planet's magnetic field. The Blue Titan was not a random monster. It was a guardian. Their analysis of ancient geological records showed evidence that creatures like this had existed before, millions of years ago. They had served a purpose in the ecosystem of the young Earth, regulating something deep within the planet's core. James Okonkwo finally got through to someone who would listen. He explained his theory to a young Navy lieutenant who had grown up reading his research papers. The Blue Titan was not attacking because it was not interested in humanity at all. It was responding to damage done to the ocean floor. The deep-sea drilling operations had punctured into chambers that were meant to stay sealed. Something was leaking, something that threatened to poison the entire ocean. The creature had awakened to fix what humanity had broken. The nuclear countdown reached day minus 4 hours when General Webb received a frantic call from the science team. They had found evidence supporting the theory. Satellite thermal imaging showed unusual heat signatures rising from the drilling sites. Gas readings from ocean monitoring stations showed toxic compounds flooding into the water. If left unchecked, the contamination would spread across the entire Pacific within months. It would kill everything. The president faced the most difficult decision in human history. The nuclear strike would certainly damage the creature, perhaps even kill it. But if the scientists were right, killing the Blue Titan might doom the entire planet. The creature might be the only thing capable of sealing the wounds that humanity had created in the ocean floor. She ordered the nuclear countdown to pause. She demanded proof. Dr. Chun worked alongside James and hundreds of other scientists around the world, all connected through emergency video conferences. They tracked the creature's path and cross-referenced it with geological data. The Blue Titan was heading directly toward the largest and deepest drilling operation, a site called Mariana Station Delta. The underwater facility had been extracting rare earth minerals from depths no human technology had ever reached before. It was also the source of the worst contamination. At hour 17, the Blue Titan reached the drilling site. The world held its breath as they watched through underwater cameras. The creature descended into the depths, its bioluminescent patterns glowing brighter and brighter. It used its massive claws to tear apart the drilling machinery that humans had left behind. Then it began to do something miraculous. Its body produced a substance, a thick biological cement that it used to seal the punctured chambers one by one. The military stood down. The nuclear weapons were returned to their silos. People stopped running and started watching. For the first time in human history, they witnessed a creature beyond their comprehension performing an act of planetary healing. The Blue Titan was not their enemy. It had never been their enemy. They had simply been too afraid to understand. The creature worked for 3 days straight, sealing wounds and neutralizing the toxic compounds with biological processes that human scientists could barely comprehend. Dr. Chun documented everything, knowing that this data could revolutionize human understanding of ocean biology and planetary ecosystems. James Okonkwo wept as he watched, grateful that someone had listened before it was too late. On the 4th day, the Blue Titan finished its work. The ocean floor was sealed. The contamination was contained. The creature rose one final time to the surface and let out a call that echoed around the world. It was not a roar of challenge or triumph. It was simply a sound of completion, a note of ancient purpose fulfilled. Then the Blue Titan turned and began swimming away from the coast, heading back toward the deep ocean where it had slept for eons. Scientists tracked its descent until it disappeared beyond the reach of their instruments. The world slowly returned to a state of stunned calm. Cities that had been evacuated began welcoming their residents back. The highways cleared. The panic faded. But humanity was forever changed. The governments of the world came together in the months that followed, creating new international agreements about deep-sea drilling and ocean conservation. The lesson had been delivered clearly. Humans were not the masters of this planet. They were guests, and they needed to behave accordingly. The ocean was home to forces beyond human control, guardians that would rise when the balance was threatened. Dr. Chun published her research and became the leading voice for oceanic protection. James Okonkwo was invited to speak at the United Nations, where he called for humanity to learn from this experience. The image of the Blue Titan, that terrifying and magnificent creature, became a symbol not of fear but of hope. It proved that the Earth had ways of protecting itself, and that humanity needed to become part of that protection rather than a threat to it. The coastal cities rebuilt and recovered. Memorials were erected to those who had died in the panic of the evacuation. New monitoring stations were established to watch for signs of other, ancient guardians that might still sleep beneath the waves. Humanity had faced extinction and survived not through weapons or violence, but through understanding and restraint. And somewhere in the darkest depths of the Pacific Ocean, the Blue Titan settled back into its ancient slumber, its duty completed. It would sleep again for ages, dreaming whatever dreams creatures of its kind might dream. But it would always be there, waiting, ready to rise again if the planet needed it. Humanity had received their warning. Now it was up to them to prove they had learned the lesson. The oceans remained vast and mysterious, holding secrets that humans were only beginning to understand. But now they approached those mysteries with new respect and humility. The Blue Titan had taught them that humanity was not alone on this world, and that some problems could not be solved with force. Sometimes, the only answer was to step back and let nature heal itself. It was a lesson that would echo through generations, a story passed down from parent to child. The tale of the day the ocean sent its guardian and humanity chose wisdom over war.